The Maltese Falcon on 4K Blu-ray. Finally watched it. I had never seen it before, so here's going to be my review and my thoughts. Alright, I'm not trying to be dramatic or fake, but when I did see this Warner Brothers logo, first of all, it looks kind of like the classic, like Animaniacs type logo from 1941 with the fine grain over it and how detailed it was. I was just like, oh yes, this is going to be awesome. So I was so glad to finally see this movie and to finally see where the inspiration from, like Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Dixon Hill holodeck episodes, like this is like exactly Picard's office in those, and so it was so cool to finally see like the origins of where that came from. All right, and I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the 4K and the Blu-ray right now. So this is by far one of the most amazing 4K discs I've ever seen, but also like restorations. There was a huge difference between the old Blu-ray and this new 4K. So the Blu-ray is not a bad watch by any means. It's just that the 4K is just leaps and bounds over the Blu-ray. Just the black levels and the contrast and the detail and the fine grain. And the one thing also I really noticed the difference between the two is just the lack of scratches and wiggly irregularities that are in some older masters and older prints, I guess, older transfers. This is definitely one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen, and I'm so happy that I saw this movie for the first time on 4K, and then I compared it to the Blu-ray afterwards. As far as the 2.0 DTS HD Master Audio mono track, it was very clear and nice. It wasn't like, this isn't like a Dolby Atmos kind of movie, so I thought that sounded good. So as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no new special features on this thing. It's the same exact disc as before, but I would say it's 100% worth it alone because watching this 4K felt like pouring sweet, creamy, thick cocoa straight into my eyeballs. It was fun to dive into just like an original noir, like American noir movie. And heretofore, before this, my noir experience was as follows. The video game of the original Max Payne, Dixon Hill from Star Trek, and The Big Sleep from Raymond Chandler. And actually kind of a weird one that you wouldn't think of, but I consider it like a noir thing, is in the Animatrix, there's a short film called A Detective Story, where it's like all black and white and a detective is going after Trinity. So that's kind of my experience with film noir. There's probably some more, but that's what comes to mind. And I loved this movie. I loved it so much. I was like on the edge of my seat and had a smile on my face the whole time. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go through this and just point out some stuff I liked and some stuff I noticed and some stuff I saw, and kind of like it's a book club and it's my turn to talk. But first of all, look at this shot. It's amazing. I guess the original Blade Runner is pretty noirish. I just think, when I think of noir, I just think a femme fatale. I think of a detective by himself, kind of against the odds at night. There's almost like a checklist of aesthetic things that I think of. But one thing I noticed through all movies that I will call like the noir genre is, and I really like it a lot because it kind of pulls you into it, and it is throughout their little mission or adventure or detective thing, it feels like the main character, like the detective, I guess Roger Rabbit is kind of that way too, but it feels like the main character never gets to sleep. It's like their mission just goes on and on and on and on, and they never get to sleep. And particularly in this movie that has some of the best like editing and pacing and dialogue that I've ever seen in any movie, I can see why this movie has lasted the test of time. But I just love that the main character, like they don't get to sleep and they just get dragged from thing to thing to thing. And sometimes they get injured or drugged or whatever, but they're getting beaten down emotionally and physically, and also just lack of sleep as they try to solve this adventure. And I noticed that's kind of a theme throughout all stories of this kind that I've really enjoyed, because while you're watching it, you start to feel their tiredness. All right, I have to go in the dark for this part. So scene changes. They're gonna go investigate this lady and help her out. And I was like, oh, cool, establishing shot. Here's our guy. He's on scene and he's just looking around and looks a little concerned. And then, oh my gosh, he gets shot. This is like 6 minutes into the movie. I was just like, woo! That escalated really quickly. Poor guy. Also, this shot, you can't tell on my phone, but in black and white with the HDR, looks so good. Looks great. This is very good creepy music right here. But they're looking down at the dead body from up on this hill, and look at this weird shot. They've done something to it with layers so that it looks like you're looking down the hill, but that's not a natural thing you would see, because then you have like the city up above it. So you should be looking down the hill and then the city. And so it's almost like they've like layered this part and then this part. I don't know. Something seems odd about this shot, and I would love to know how this part was done. All right, this is something that I absolutely love about these kind of movies, and this movie in particular.
All right, Tom,
Listen.
what happened? Got him right through the pump with this.
Thanks, Tom. What happened? Got him right through the pump with this, as in shot him through the heart, calling the heart a pump. But it's just like, it's such spicy street language. I love it. So Sam Spade does not like guns, and he usually doesn't carry one. But one thing that I think is really cool and makes him seem more legit good at his job is that he knows all the things about the guns. Like, this guy is like, hey, it's this kind of gun. Isn't this like an English gun? And then he goes on to just like name all the like exact kind of gun it is with like specific details and ask a very specific technical gun question about that. And I really like that about his character. He's like, I don't like guns. I don't want to use them. I don't want to carry them. But he still knows a lot about them. So very cool detective thing. His partner's widow comes to visit him. Oh, okay. And whoa, okay.
Darling.
All right.
Take
So
care of
were they
everything.
more than partner's wife-friendly acquaintance here? I was very surprised when I saw that. So Sam obviously has a very close and open and personal relationship with his secretary lady. She's kind of telling him what to do and telling him that one day, because he's so slick, he's gonna get in trouble and all this stuff. But look at while he's talking to her. Look at his hand.
You're an angel. Nice, rattle-brained little angel.
Oh, am I?
Thanks, son.
It's pretty high up on the thigh there.
I hadn't been home many minutes
Casual
when I
secretary,
arrived, but the news at 3 o'clock
1941 hand action.
Are you telling me?
There are so many amazing lines in
I
this.
mean, you paid us more than if you'd been telling us the truth, and enough more to make it all right.
Tell me, Mr. Spade.
Wow. You paid us enough to make us feel like you're telling the truth, and enough more to make it all right. I slaughter that, but there's so many lines in this movie that are just so snappy and amazing and brutal and quotable. I love it. I love watching how Sam operates, particularly with the femme fatale here.
Can't you get some more?
No,
She only gives him
Raise
$400.
some money on it.
it's furs, no jewelry.
You'll have to hock 'em.
He's like, give me the rest of your money. Sell your stuff to live on. Takes her last $500.
There you are. I'll be back as soon as I can with the best news I can manage. I'll ring.
I think all these little buildings outside the window are miniatures.
To be on the safe side.
And I think the reason I think they're miniatures is because all the lights on them are in such perfect focus. I think they'd be more blurry if they were actually at true distance. So it kind of reminds me of Rope. Is it Rope, the Hitchcock movie, where there's the kind of the miniature city in the background with all the lights and stuff going on? I think that's kind of the same thing going on here. When Peter Lorre walks into the room with his super unique face and voice and amazing acting skills, I know that we're going to have a good time. So we know that he doesn't like guns and he doesn't like carrying guns, but I love to see how he acts around guns, and now he's constantly disarming people in this movie. But I also like this scene because it teaches you, like, you don't mess with Sam Spade. Like, you do not come into his office and point a gun at him. Like, he will not take kindly to that. Here's another one of my favorite shots. He stumbles up out of the couch, walks across the room, and then you've got Sam there in a reflection. Such cool cinematography in this thing. Love this evasion technique right here. Pushes all the buttons. I love that he immediately picks up that there's a guy following him and he loses him. I love how often in this movie, oh my gosh, look at this imagery, so good. Anyway, I love how often in the movie that Sam keeps sticking it to this young guy who's following around. So some of my favorite Sam Spade moments are when he's just finished messing with someone and he smiles like that and walks away. And actually realizing that in this movie, there you go, there's him smiling and walking away. So anyway, realizing that in this movie, that he does that a few times after he messes with people, it actually made me realize that I think that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Harrison Ford modeled in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, specifically when they're in the motorcycle chase, after he like sticks the thing in the guy's tires or jousts someone or whatever and causes them to crash. And then he turns around and looks at it, and then he has this huge smile on his face as they're going away from them. And then, of course, his dad looks at him, he's all serious. But I didn't realize that that was very Humphrey Bogart of Harrison Ford in those movies when he kind of smiles wryly after messing with the bad guys. And so whether they meant it or not, I think that was inspired by Humphrey Bogart. So it's kind of cool to watch these older movies and see how they inspired the movies that I grew up with. Well, I guess him and Deckard from Blade Runner. Is that I guess that's also a theme in these movies. The detective's like, I'll take payment out of your lips. Here's Sam Spade laying hands on Peter Lorre.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it. Oh my gosh, is that not one of the best movie lines ever? So some of my very favorite music in the whole movie comes up right here. Listen to the low, low piano as Peter Lorre steps over him. You hear that? It's very, very low. And I love the music in this movie because there's this like silly, funny music, like when he's smiling at messing with the bad guys. And then it goes to this like low, scary, sinister piano music. It's like there's an awesome music for every part of this movie, be it like funny or scary or whatever. It's a very, how do you say, like a integrated soundtrack, like one that you don't really notice very well because it fits so well. But surprisingly awesome music in this movie. Here's another amazing, perfect, quotable line. And brutal. Listen, he's washing the blood off his hands. She's about to pass out.
Long enough to tell us something.
Why couldn't he stay alive long enough to tell us something?
Yeah, none of that kind.
She's about to pass out and he's just like scrubbing the blood off. He's just like, oh man, if only we could have got more information. Just like, God, this guy is cold.
Back of you, didn't he?
I love this part
Anyways,
at
made
the
to
end.
order for the pie. Look at him. Let's give him to them.
Where they're all in this room and Sam Spade says that they should give the gunman to the police to be the fall guy, and he is not having it, and he hasn't been having it the whole movie. Boop. But the one thing I love about this scene is that all these people keep trying to turn each other against each other, trying to get the Falcon and trying to outsmart each other. This scene is so awesome. And I just wanted to say another thing about this movie. The Maltese Falcon itself is like the definition of a movie MacGuffin. That's like a Hitchcock term for like the thing everybody's chasing that may not necessarily... Its point is that it's the thing they're chasing, whatever it is. But this movie is like perfect textbook MacGuffin usage, and other movies can try to do it as good as this movie, but again, I just really see how this movie lasted the test of time, and it is now easily one of my favorites. Definitely one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen. This might be in my top 10 of 4Ks of the year. It might be the same as last year, where number 2 last year was Top Gun Maverick and number 1 was Casablanca. It might be the same here, where number 2 is Avatar: Way of Water and number 1 is this. But we'll see. We got a long way to go before the end of the year. But yeah, I was so impressed with this movie. I had such a good time with it. And just going through it again, kind of watching it and pausing it and stuff to do my review, just watching more of the movie, it's just like, wow, this is so good. And it's so snappy and it's so quick. It's Like, I imagine if you're in the theater with this in 1941 watching it and someone's like rustling their popcorn too loud, like you might miss some dialogue. Like, that's how quick and snappy all the dialogue is. And I actually thought she did amazing in this movie, boop, as being like the innocent victim, like, oh, this thing happened to me, to actually turning out to be like the full on femme fatale, as they say, like bad lady. She was great. And one thing I liked is she had like this really kind of like pathetic sounding voice where she's like, oh, please help me, you're so brave, share your bravery with me. But then later, when she's kind of being her more true self, she has like this like villainous like business talk that she does, and she's great through all of it. So I just love how she kind of, you can see all of her innocence fade away, her fake innocence, and you can see her act and talk like a villain. All right, well, I love this movie, and the 4K is absolutely incredible and a huge upgrade over the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is still watchable and still enjoyable, but this is on a completely other level. I felt like I was just watching a clean film projected onto a screen. The grain was just finely tingling the whole time, and there was so much detail, and the contrast between the blacks and the whites. Whew, very good looking 4K. Definitely recommend the upgrade if this is your kind of thing. But I love this movie, and thanks for watching this. If you enjoyed this, and if you want to see me watching, you want to watch me watching movies and me talking about movies like it's a book club and it's my turn and I'm just going to go through stuff like I noticed, they all kind of go like this, whether that's good or bad. So if you like that sort of thing, then push the button. There's all kinds of buttons. Push them all. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.